Good morning, everybody. We'll give you just a minute here while everybody connects to audio and gets situated. Happy Thursday. I don't know about all of you, but with MLK Day and then a snow day on Tuesday, I was totally surprised that it was Thursday. Delightfully surprised to wake up to a Thursday. Felt more like a Monday or a Tuesday. Well, good morning again and welcome. I'm Griffin O'Shaughnessy, the founder and CEO of Canopy Advisory Group. Canopy is an on-demand talent firm ready to foster growth, accelerate performance, and tackle organizational challenges with our network of top-tier professionals. Part of our vision at Canopy includes connecting all of you, our broader community, with incredible experts like Nicole Zimmermann, who's our guest this morning. Nicole is a bilingual international marketing, accounting, and transformation executive. Her expertise covers a variety of business sectors and companies, including Fortune 500 organizations such as T-Mobile and Western Union, where she spent a combined 20 years. She is a sought-after guest lecturer at leading business schools in the US, like CU's Leeds School of Business, and also in Europe, as well as a speaker at fintech conferences on topics of female leadership and DEI. Nicole also serves as an advisory board member and a cohort chair for the Colorado Thought Leadership Forum's Wise Women program. Forbes even named Nicole one of their 11 women who are changing the face of finance. Pretty impressive. In today's webinar, Nicole will explore the critical need for digital business transformation. Many of us might even say, how exactly do you define digital business transformation? That was one of my key questions. So she's going to touch on that to start as well. We'd love for this to be an interactive conversation. So please feel free to ask questions live at any point or throw them in the chat, and we will be sure to monitor that for everybody. We're so honored to have you here this morning, Nicole. And with that, I will let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Griffin. That's a very kind introduction. And hello and good morning, everyone. Very excited to share with you this case study based on key factors for a successful digital transformation in an ever-changing world. So let's jump right away into it. So my name is Nicole Zimmermann. As Griffin said, she gave you the nice rundown of my CV. If you want to learn a little bit more about me in the presentation that will be shared with you after this webinar, you can click on either my career journey and listen a little bit to how did I get where I got to today, or even a little bit more specific about my founder and CEO journey when I left corporate and started my own business, Zellison & Partners, and being now a proud partner to Canopy Advisory Group, as well as an expert in their pool of experts. So today's webinar will cover a couple of areas. So we will look into what transformation successes and failures are actually looking like, and why the need for transformation under certain circumstances and the timing for transformation is really important to either be successful or to be probably in a prolonged vicious circle of a transformation, but it is not leading anywhere, which might at the end lead to a failure of a transformation. So we'll have a closer look to those circumstances and the environmental impacts. The case study that I will share with you is really a very interesting one. While it is talking about a Fortune 500 company, that is a 172-year-old global brand, Western Union, in the financial services industry, I think there are a lot of interesting elements that you can hopefully take away in terms of any size of company when you think about customer experience, digital customer journeys, digital transformation. So I will try to make this very relevant to any type of company, any type of industry, but the case study is based on a Fortune 500 financial services corporation. We will also have a double click why I personally believe, and in my experience that I have seen over the last 25 to 30 years in business, that marketing actually is a key driver for this change, and there are critical reasons for this. We will look into the agility and innovation around the digital customer journey, and as usually marketing owns this as a discipline, that's why marketing, I feel, should be even more at the forefront of driving change and transformation and support a corporation during that time of change. And then we will double click also on the culture of change. So how are you in the process of transformation actually keeping your employees engaged and motivated? Because we all know change is not easy, change is hard. Change is sometimes really exhausting because you might not see easily the light at the end of the tunnel. So we will look into that, and then we will have some key takeaways for you. And in between, as Griffin said, we want to make this very interactive. So I'm happy to pause at each and every slide to see which specific questions you might have that are related to your company, your industry, your business you are in. So if that sounds good to everyone, then we will just continue and jump right away into Griffin's first question. So what is digital transformation? And you can Google it. You can ask ChatGPT or Bart. You will get millions of definitions of what digital transformation actually is or could look like. The way of how I like to look at it is actually what you make it to be, because digital transformation as part of a corporation can cover all areas of your business. And then you would usually call it a business transformation, where you touch on processes, product and technology, customer and customer experience, your internal view of people, organization, talent, or even your business model strategy and change management in your organization. So I think you can pick a definition that suits the need of your organization to transform and to digitize your business. And you might have a specific area of where you want to start. Usually the best way to look at it is from a customer perspective, because those are the people that are buying your products and services, and they pay you and your company. So that's the revenue you earn. But we have also seen in the early days of digital transformation, when it became a buzzword, that the start was actually out of technology and product, and looking at how to actually digitize the product portfolio and the technology stack, because a lot of companies are looking at a legacy in these type of areas, or it is process driven. But when you start with a customer-centric perspective, I think this will actually lead you to the areas in your company where digital transformation is actually needed. So it can cover all of these areas. You can pick specific areas, or you can combine these specific areas with each other in terms of thinking about what digital transformation actually drives and provides for you as an organization. So then jumping into actually the reasons of why corporations need to digitally transform. And I have picked, I would say, the top 6 areas. There are a long list of reasons of why corporations potentially need to transform, but here are the top 6 that I have chosen to speak about today in a little bit more detail in the case study. So market trends can impact the need for a digital transformation, changes in customer behavior. Your competitive landscape is changing. There's new product innovation, and we all know between product innovation and evolving technology that AI is at the moment dominating all the conversations in terms of how to incorporate this into your day-to-day business. But also merger and acquisitions are usually reasons of why corporations need to look at maybe the 2 companies that are actually deciding to merge are at a different level in terms of their technology stack or their products or their processes. or their customer base and customer needs and services that they are providing. So at the end of the day, these are probably the top 6 of why corporations are pushed. There is a macroeconomic element as well that we all painfully have gone through, and that was a pandemic that kept us busy for over 3 years to think about. That was obviously a Kickstarter for a digital transformation as well. But we will hope that that was an event of the past and hopefully not coming back to us anytime soon in our lifetime. So when you think about a financial service industry company, a Fortune 500 publicly traded company, like Western Union, there were actually specific reasons out of most of those 6 areas for them to actually look closer into when do we start our digital transformation, and what is actually the outcome that we want to accomplish if we take a corporation like ours on this journey. And so the first one was really the market trends. We had the remittance and cross-border money transfer business. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the financial services industry and that specific area, but that is a part of the industry that grows significantly, usually anywhere between a high single digit to a low double digit CAGR year over year. And so it's a very attractive business space to go into as a new corporation, as founders, as startups. And so the total business is close to $900 billion. And so that is a market space where there is a lot of opportunity for a lot of companies. So we knew that this is an attractive space for companies to start. And so the next point, the new market entries, we had specifically in the years 2010, 11, fintech startups that were providing in the remittance and cross-border money transfer space 100% digital solutions, meaning they don't have a retail space, they don't have retail locations, they are only handling online the business through websites and apps. And so it was very clear that a company like Western Union with over 550,000 retail locations across the world needs to think about what digital transformation actually needs to accomplish to stay relevant and competitive in this space. We also saw in parallel at that time, if probably everyone remembers, was the time of the rise of the Apple iPhone and the technology. So it was very clear that the customer behavior and the consumer technology adaptation is going to happen, and we will see a significant shift from retail to digital and to mobile. And so it was very clear in the combination of new fintechs that provide 100% digital solution and consumers changing behavior that we need to figure out how are we going about this change and this transformation. Product innovation, as I mentioned, the digital transfer types that came up were then, for example, mobile wallets. Everyone knows now we are paying with cards that we have captured in our mobile phone in our wallet, or we use Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or Google Pay. And so while these products specifically were not there at the beginning of this journey in 2011 and 12, it was very clear that we are going to progress in that direction. Excuse me. And so it was very clear that actually all of these elements are going to hit us at one point in time, and we need to be ready with answers on our side in terms of technology, product, and in terms of the way of how we are offering our services to our customers. And last but not least, at that period of time, there was also new technology evolution, like blockchain and digital currencies, like Bitcoin came up in that period of time as well. So we had a lot of pressure on the organization to have answers ready. And as you can imagine, in the size of the corporation, a digital transformation is not something that happens overnight. This is a dedication to a strategy to think about. And so the way of Western Union iterating actually was in terms of trying to find the answer to the Holy Grail question, which is, how are you going about it? Are you just initiating projects in specific areas or in specific regions if you're a global brand, and let them drive this digital transformation on their own? Are you building a global program that brings actually cross-functionally teams together, and it's like a dedicated task force that goes about this enterprise-wide? Are you making it a responsibility of a dedicated transformation department where you think about the ownership of the digital transformation comes from people that are assigned to day in, day out, just think about digital transformation and nothing else? Or are you thinking about it more holistically, actually as something that you need to engage the entirety of the organization, which I will call change management moving forward, where you really look into bottom-up accountabilities and the empowerment and enablement of each and every of your employees to be part of this change and this transformation? So that is the Holy Grail question, and Western Union iterated actually in terms of a learning curve of starting to think about how can we find the best way for us. So in the early days in 2010, actually there was a pivotal moment, which was that on one of the earnings releases calls, an analyst asked our CEO, what is the corporation actually going to do to address the fierce competition that is coming in from all these fintech startups that are 100% digital, and is a brand like Western Union that at that time was 160 years in the market, surviving the next 10 years. So if an analyst asks these questions, that causes a lot of tension in the organization in terms of what are our answers. So the way of how we went about it was we started with a global program, but what we quickly realized, and quickly in this case in a big organization like ours was at that time 2 years, where these in-house task force with a list of projects was just like felt a death by 1,000 projects, because everyone decided themselves what digital transformation looks like. And so it was not a coherent strategy or a coherent focus. So from there, the organization decided and the executives decided, we'll try the departmental approach. So the top-down approach, setting up a strategy, an agenda, a project plan, going out into the organization and selling this and pitching for, be part of this journey. The transformation office is leading it, but we want obviously the rest of the organization being part of. That led in many areas to the not invented here syndrome reaction. People were busy, in their regions to make their numbers, drive their revenue, win new customers. And so because they were not accountable for it, and it was a department accountable for it, there was a lot of reluctance to, add resources and support this transformation. So with that steep learning curve, I think in 2016, then we asked one of the largest consulting groups in the world to come in and actually help us on this journey. And that was McKinsey with their Organizational Health Index program. You will get the link here in the chat from Serena, so you can, after the webinar, look into it. It's a program that McKinsey has run across thousands of corporations. And so the organization decided to actually build out a change management group of top 10 talented leaders in the organization, to give them a 2-year assignment and to work with McKinsey on what is called the new way of working. And it was branded the Wu Way. And I was fortunate to be one of those 10 leaders to go through this transformational journey. And I was actually also part of the Transformation Office 1.0. So I had a clear view of actually what needs to change in terms of making this transformation finally stick and finally be successful. I pause here before I jump into the concrete example, because I'm sure there might be potentially some questions before I run in double click on marketing as a driver for change and the cultural change management element. So just open it up and see if there are any questions at this point. No?
I have a question,
Yeah.
Nicole, about the
Yes.
McKinsey
Yes.
Organizational Health Index. I'm just looking at it online. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
more about that as we kind of scroll through it and how you
Sure.
utilized it to kind of kick off the
Yes.
project.
Yeah, so I will actually share exactly how we did it, Griffin, in the next couple of slides. But the concept of the Organizational Health Index is described as not only looking at your financial performance, but actually looking at your organizational health. And that means at your people that are actually part of driving this change. And that was really the significant change in the approach, because that was this bottom-up accountability, empowerment, and enablement of each and every employee in their area of responsibility and in their role, being responsible to look at how can I improve, how can I make my area of responsibility more efficient, more effective. And obviously there come lean methodology and agile methodology tools in play that McKinsey and we as a change management group actually went out and trained all of employees at Western Union. So everyone at the end of the journey was lean certified. So they knew how to problem solve, how to go about identifying errors and non-added value in the customer journeys or in the areas of their responsibility, if they are sitting in accounting or if they are sitting in compliance. So this was a massive undertaking over 3 years of really train the organization to help them themselves identify in their area of responsibility to change. And then the model has a lot of other elements. There is a strategy that you need to choose from. They call it 4 recipes that you need to choose. Which one do you really as a strategy want to apply? But that is in general the concept. It's empowerment of each and every employee to actually drive the performance and the transformation.
Got it. And so the Organizational Health Index identified that as an area of growth specifically for Western Union, which was then why that was the approach you tackled in the Transformation Office 2.0. But it could be different.
Exactly.
It could have identified a different sort of weakness, so to speak, in a different
Yes,
organization.
absolutely. I mean, the areas where we had a lot of employees really proactively coming forward with the areas of improvements, but also McKinsey, as a very analytical consulting company, identified key areas like technology, like product development, like go-to-market, like compliance as key areas where the most significant changes and the digital transformation can be driven from.
Okay, got it.
All right, yeah, let's have a look actually what the components were of the Wu Wei then. So as I said, it was choosing a strategic concept because it's very important to rally all of the employees behind one strategy and one concept. So as I said, the Organizational Health Index uses 4 health recipes, as they call them. And so Western Union chose the Market Shaper recipe, which actually is defined as shaping innovation via customer insights and external orientation. And so this gave a clear indication to the organization that customer centricity is the first and most important thing we need to think about when we change and when we transform. And external orientation was keep an eye on the competitive landscape. What is going on with all these fintech startups in the space? And where are they gaining market share, where we probably are not fast enough in changing, fast enough in transforming. So a combination of these two focus areas were driving and guide our digital transformation. Then, as I said, the methodology is really about this mindset shift. So why do we need to change? As you saw from the previous slide, there are many reasons of why companies need to change, and Western Union was really, really under pressure at that point in time to have good answers for analysts and shareholders in terms of what are you doing, to compete and to stay relevant and to continue to grow as an organization. So it was about really critical that we were telling the story of why do we need to change internally, but also have externally a story to tell of what our strategy of change is looking like. And then it was in terms of the doubling down on understanding your transformation can only be successful, and it doesn't matter how sizable or how big your corporation and company is, when your employees are part of the change. And so that was why the decision was made that we are training the employees of helping them to identify areas of non-added value work, of waste in the system, in processes, in work collaboration with different departments, with each other. And so basing this on lean and agile tools was the task for employees then to continuously think about how can they improve their work area. And so I think that was actually the silver bullet, because when you tell your employees that you want them to help to drive the change and to bring their ideas in, that is a whole nother level of accountability and empowerment. And employees are actually proud to bring forward ideas and say, you know what, I think we could reduce the timing in this process by 5 minutes or by 2 hours or by even sometimes days of how usually a process would be run, or writing new policies that would enable and make things easier and less bureaucratic. So whatever area, again, you're thinking about, these employees in each and every area and department felt empowered that they can, with the lean and agile tools, actually go about themselves to improve. And then customer centricity, as I said, is a critical component because it lays out the foundation for people thinking different about their work. So they think about, well, where is my work actually really adding value to the customer? And where is it actually not adding value or even creating waste? And so can we not eliminate even more and more of that non-added value work and that waste so that we are getting more efficient and effective? And on the opposite, outside in view, customers feel, oh my God, this goes so much faster. This is so much easier to use. So their customer experience changes becoming visible. And so that is critical as part of the transformation and was as part of Wu Wei. And then the deployments. So the deployments, again, this is a Fortune 500 company case study. So I'm appreciating that you might not have such a sizable organization, but even in the small terms of thinking about how would you then specifically go about identifying these opportunities to change, take non-added value out of the processes or eliminate errors or waste, is by thinking through how can we problem solve around it. And that's what we call deployments. And so I will double click on this, moving into the next slide to actually explain what we identified, which area we identified. And here comes then marketing in, that really drives the change, because that is one organizational department that is the closest to the customers, because they are interacting with the customers. They are developing value propositions so that more customers are buying products from a corporation. So in this case, I think marketing plays a really critical role to drive the change. And so what we did is we knew that our digital product needs to be super competitive because all of these digital fintechs came into our space and were competing with us left and right all over the world. And so what we did is we looked at the digital customer journey and said, can we dissect each and every step in this journey and understand what's happening? So we have obviously the search and purchase phase of a customer journey where there is product and price comparison happening. Someone is choosing a product. In this case, our product was called Woo.com and is still today. It's called westernunion.com. If you go on the website, you can do money transfer across the world into 200 countries. Then after someone chose our product, we had an onboarding where they had to set up an account. They had to fill out forms when they want to do a money transfer. From where to where are you sending? Who is your receiver? Do you know your receiver? Because this is an area where, you know, highly regulated financial services space. So there's a lot of protection in terms of anti-money laundering and fraud. And so we needed to collect specific information from the customer. Our compliance organization would review, which is called KYC, know your customer. And then the customer would hopefully have no issues. But if he would have an issue with his transfer, he would call customer service. And then we would hope that the customer service could resolve the issue for the customer right away. But what we found in the journey was actually that the first call resolution, so when a customer calls one time, has a call center representative on the phone, actually, they are not able to solve it in the first call. Multiple calls needed to happen until this was solved for a customer, which you can imagine is very frustrating because one, you do not end up with the same call center representative every time. You know, sometimes I'm sure you have experienced that with products that you are using. You end up in nirvana of the customer care organization. No one is actually following up. So there was really a pain point where we said we need to get this first call resolution from a 20% resolving to at least above 50%. And so that was where marketing with its information about the customer behavior came in to really help and double down. And so this is the area where we chose to actually do our first transformation of looking at how can, in the transformation efforts, a digital product be improved. So what we did was we double-clicked and, as I said, double-downed on customer service. First call resolution was our task. In this case, Western Union, as I said, has, as a global operation, operational call centers across the world. One sits in Costa Rica. So I personally was actually sent to Costa Rica with a dedicated team of call center representatives and other department team members to actually look into how can we solve first call resolution. So that was a lean tool we applied, root cause analysis it is called. Then we came up with a solution. So we trained every day to look into how can we actually improve, test and learn. And those were agile sprints that we applied. So it's very leveraging technology and leveraging tools like agile sprints. So every 2 weeks, you try something different and see what sticks. And then when you, over the period of weeks, feel that you get to a solution that works best, then you double down on that solution and you make it actually part of what you are then going to propose. You are measuring, obviously, the success and see, is your solution getting traction? And so all in all, this was a 6 months project. And at the end of the day, we had a solution that we proposed to the organization of how you can solve for first call resolution and improve your digital product as part of the digital transformation, and how you continuously can further improve the customer experience. And I will share with you now the same picture that we had, but now really with the detail of where first call resolution solutioning came in. So what we actually realized is when customers are calling, sometimes the call center representative does not have the necessary information to actually solve the problem for the customer, because the customer might have an issue with his credit card, which lies in the accounting and finance team. The customer might have issues with the information he provided in terms of his receiver. This is more a risk and compliance issue. Or the customer has just an issue with the product itself because the website crashed and continued to crash. Whatever it was, we realized a call center representative can't have all this information at their fingertip. So the solution is to actually build a cross-functional team around the customer service representative. And if the call center agent needs help from finance or needs help from compliance, he can bring in that respective department and team so that they together actually problem solve for the customer on the call. And we have seen right away when we started to really build out this idea, 4 times higher resolution in the first call, which was at the end landing above 80% first call resolution. And even the customer experience significantly increased because customers felt someone is really taking care of them and someone takes really their issue and challenge with the product serious. But the good thing that happens, even if you single out one area of your customer journey that you want to address first, we had so much input to every other area of where they can potentially improve this specific part of the journey as well. So when you think about the search until someone purchases a product, there is more clearer information needed about what this digital product actually exactly looks like, why it, for example, is so important to have correct information about the receiver that you sent your money to, so your money arrives safe. So we learned a lot in this process, and we gave into each and every department that was responsible for this part of the journey the information in terms of where we think additional improvements can be made. And so that is where you then holistically build out actually a digital transformation, because you give information to product, technology, accounting, marketing, all areas that have a part to play in your customer journey. And they are very, I would say, receptive, because obviously they want as well that their part in the process is working instead of constantly doing fire drills of solving issues. And so holistically then, we were really able to see a significant higher customer satisfaction and also repeat purchase. So we saw customers coming back using our digital product over and over again, because the improvements made were really to make the product simple, easy, explain it in a simple way that people understand what to expect from the product, instead of going into a retail location, using a digital product. What are the benefits? So all in all, that was a successful 6 months project that we doubled down. And as I said, we had hundreds of these type of projects related to the customer journeys and value streams across the organization. And as I said, it doesn't matter the size of your organization, as long as you let the customer actually tell you which challenges they are facing and where they feel the journey is potentially broken or not easy enough. They will tell you, or you will unfortunately see it and learn it when they go and use your competitor instead of your product, because they feel your product is not as easy to use as a competitor's product. So there's a learning curve factored in, but I think that's why marketing should be at the forefront of digital transformation, helping every organization understanding the customer journey, the customer needs, and where challenges in the journey arise from. So I pause here before I go into the next couple of slides that will just summarize for you the further successes around the digital transformation in this case study. but I want to also allow for questions here, as I think the journey example might be the one most relatable, as every one of you working in a corporation who needs to think about customer journeys.
Nicole,
No,
I
yes,
think it's fascinating that I wrote down that you said when you tell employees you want their ideas and their help in the
yes,
change, it's amazing how they're proud to help and how they
yes,
step up. So I think
yes,
that's a really fascinating piece of this case study. And I also think the fact that you said there were hundreds of these types of projects going on, kind of almost
yeah,
simultaneously. Can you tell us what were a couple, just a high level? This was the one that, you know, you focused on, but what were some other
yes.
ones? Well,
So actually we had multiple projects in the customer service area, because that is just such a critical element of a successful customer experience and can make or break your case, especially if you have customers across the world. But we looked also into the improvements of the online product itself. So I personally worked after this project on a project to look at, how can I improve actually this area, price comparison and product information, how can you describe your product even better so you can take customers on this journey and say, you know what, a digital product and money transfer, because it's a regulated space, comes with a little bit of burden in the journey, and that is around compliance. But we want to make it as easy as possible. We want to protect you from fraud. We want to protect you from scammers. So using this information, so we worked on the clearer information up front as marketing, but we also actually as marketing collaborated with compliance on many compliance projects to think about how can you shorten, for example, this review process. So, because if you are online, you put information in, you click a button, you think, oh, this will be in seconds that someone is checking this and the information comes back and then everything is fine. But this review process was actually when customers thought that they have sent the money, then the review process was starting. So it was about figuring out how can you shorten that review process by not obviously compromising compliance and the regulatory requirements, but at the end, you can always optimize processes. So we worked a lot in this area. We worked a lot in customer service. We worked a lot in comms and marketing on the upfront part of the journey. And then even accounting, took from all these projects information to say, how can we manage this better? How can we make it maybe even cheaper? Can we negotiate with the big global banks better prices for us, when we need to send things through a bank account? So there are a lot of elements that are actually starting then new, like a spider web. They start new ideas in each and every area. And then it's the responsibility of the departments to say, you know what, I can see that this improves the process significantly. So we will pick this as a project for our area. So it was wonderful to see how everyone was in this problem-solving mindset. How can we make it better? How can we eliminate this non-added value, bureaucracy, waste in the system across all of the departments? And that's, the smaller the company, it should be even easier to collaborate. And that's why in our case, it took years and years, because you can imagine if all the departments come together through project work, it takes a while. But I can see that in smaller companies, this agility is for your benefit. You can be much faster fixing things, and so I think that's an opportunity to all our audience and companies, because I think it doesn't need to be years and years of this trial and error. I think you can use some of these learnings from today's webinar and apply it and just avoid those pitfalls.
Yeah, that's fascinating. We've got a couple other questions in the
Yeah,
chat. What
great.
tools or techniques do you use to gather both the customer and the employee feedback?
Great question. So the customer feedback was the Net Promoter Score. So we looked at customer satisfaction scoring. And then from an employee perspective, it was an internal employee survey that we would use through our HR platform. So we at the time used Workday, and Workday has a service element and survey element in there. So we used internal employee surveys to gather that. And then from an ideation perspective of how employees could provide their ideas, there was actually a dedicated email address that they could send their ideas to, so that we had a holistic view of all the ideas coming from different departments, and then discuss with the departments the priority of those ideas. And sometimes, you know, the employees were even able to do these changes themselves pretty quickly without even having to set up massive projects, because it was just a quick fix of something. So it doesn't need to be always this labor intense and time intense. It can be very quick when you want to change.
And then we have another question. I think it relates, Lucy, let me know or pipe up if I'm not asking this correctly, but you were talking about one of the projects was how you learned to describe the product even better. And I think Lucy's asking, did that change your brand proposition then? Did it, how does that trickle down?
That's a great question. So I think, I mean, as a global brand, you think about your brand positioning all the time, especially the competitive landscape is getting so heated as we were facing at the time. So what we were more concerned about was really the end of that journey, which is the outcome, which is the improved customer experience and customer satisfaction. I don't think that it necessarily had changed our brand positioning. What it definitely did, though, was the different way of how we would talk about our brand, because now we had examples and even data backing us up to say, you know what, our digital product is as good as every other digital product, even better, because you get it from a Fortune 500 publicly traded, regulated company where safety and security is paramount to everything we do. And your little fintechs that have no real control mechanisms, yes, they operate under the regulatory space, but still, as such, there is not a lot of transparency of how they operate. And so I think we had some elements where, in a nice way, we could tell customers, you know what, our product is rock solid. It's easy to use. It's simple. Maybe over time that might have changed our brand positioning a little bit, but not immediately, as we would always claim, we are the place where money moves. And so, that slogan has not changed, but maybe the proof points, the way of how we prove that we are the global money mover, that is probably what has changed. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me because usually, somebody brings in a creative agency and it's a whole top-down approach with,
yes,
and saying, oh, we should be, we were red, but now we need to be pink because we're seeing these trends.
yes.
And so it's really interesting that it came from basically the inside out.
Yes. Yeah, I hear you. That is a good point. I think in that phase, we definitely used all these insights to our benefit, as I said, to be clearer in the communication, have proof points of why we think we are super competitive and actually a better product than some others. As much obviously as in a regulated space, you can claim that. But it was definitely something that would actually, I felt always it just supported much more of what a great brand we are or were back in the days when I was part of it as well. Today, it's still a great brand and a global player. But I hear you. Yes, it was definitely not an agency work that was coming in. It was more the inside out. And that made it so successful, I think, because remember from my previous slide, I shared I was part of transformation office. I was part of that first, trying to do it through a department approach. And I can't even imagine how many times I had people say, you know what, why do you in Denver think that you can help me do my business better? I don't think these are the right ideas for me, for my region, for my department. So when you get this bottom-up approach and your employees in, they are fighting for these ideas of driving the change. They feel so accountable to actually be part of this journey. And that's the whole magic of this, of why then transformations are really successful and maintain to be successful. Great. So then I know we have 9 minutes left. So I want to click through here. You can read through it as well when you get the slides. I think I talked about it already. For me, the critical part of the culture of change was really how the organization invested deliberately into their employee base to really make sure that each and every of the employees is part with their ideas, with their talent, with their skill set, adding new skill sets like lean and agile and training them on that, and then helping you to drive this through identifying these opportunities, telling them one story, one strategy, one goal was we want to be around in 10 years' time. We want to be competitive. We want to have a really good digital product as well, and not only the fintechs that are coming into the space and try to eat our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so I think at the end of the day, this cultural change needs to be embedded to really make it successful for corporations or companies. And again, we had 10,000 employees. So if you scale this down to whatever size your company has, you might not need to go through that long journey from a timing perspective, because you are agile. You make the decision. You don't need to bring it to an executive team. You don't need to have a board, give you a blessing for certain things. You might not need all these steps. So I think you can take out of this really the importance for customer centricity, telling a change story of why you need to change, setting up one strategy, and empowering your employees. That's, I think, what was successful for Wu Wei. So measurement of, I know that some people are very analytical and say, okay, bottom line, what did that do? And I precurse that here because this is a publicly traded company. So I used only information that is publicly available. Where I don't quote numbers is not areas of where information is publicly available, but these are the 4 areas. So from an efficiency perspective, across all departments, we were able to achieve annually 70 million in savings. And in comparison, so the organization is about 5 billion in revenue. So, that was a significant accomplishment. The employee survey information is unfortunately not publicly available, but I can tell you that the engagement scores of the employees were significantly higher compared to the rest of the organization in terms of where change really happened and where change really was implemented. Same with the customer. Much higher retention, much higher NPS in terms of improving customer experience. And I think the thing that we all together, the entire company, was the most proudest from the moment that the analyst said, no, maybe in 10 years you are not going to be around. After 10 years of transformation, Western Union became the largest digital money transfer provider, hitting $1 billion in revenue in 2021. So again, this is a long journey of a huge corporation. But again, it shows you when you commit to, in this case, really stand up to your competition, bring the customer centricity at the forefront and make your employees part of it, you can accomplish anything. So I think this should just tell you, if you are dedicated and focused, you can accomplish anything. And then what are the pitfalls? Sorry, yes.
No. I was It's such a sort of inspiring transformation story.
Yeah.
We have a couple questions too that
Yes.
I just want to highlight.
Absolutely.
The communication strategy and the internal plan to get everyone on board feels very daunting. So can you talk a little bit? We have a question about how you approached communicating what was happening, what the progress was, what were some wins that were achieved to the broader.
Yes. Absolutely. Great question. So, as you can imagine, it was not only about the bottom-up empowerment of employees, it was also how are we connecting all the employees literally through internal communication to feel that they are part of it. So the way of how this would work is, as a publicly traded company, we have every quarter not only the earnings release call, but we also have a town hall right after the earnings release where the CEO is actually presenting to the entire organization the numbers, but also all other accomplishments. And it was always made a point to share with the employees and to highlight employees and specific projects that were able to cut down process time from a couple of days to 1 day or 24 hours, or to improve a specific other area or a new customer satisfaction score that we were able to hit because we made improvements in the journey for customers. So the savings, where were we able to save so that we can invest the money into the fun things, which is like product innovation and marketing communication. So there was a deliberate comms plan built around it that would, on a very, very regular base, communicate to the employees, and each and every head of the department had that responsibility as well. So they would, on a regular base, even more regular than quarterly town halls, communicate with the employees what works, what is not working, where can we continue to still improve. So there was a whole improvement of internal communication and creating transparency and having this interaction with employees. So when you look into a little bit more of the organizational health index with McKinsey, there is also a case study document from McKinsey. I might need to pull that so that you can read actually into the details. So I will provide that to you, Serena, because there is a part of this in internal communications and employee management of how to coach your employees in a different way. So there were multiple components of really keeping employees connected, supporting employees, but also communicating to employees.
Okay, great. And then also another question, how did you address the enterprise's priority for shared services departments like the technology department? This is coming from somebody who's in tech and wishes that these types of initiatives were an open checkbook to add staff, but that's often not an option.
Yeah. Sorry, Griffin, you broke up at the beginning of the question. Could you repeat the question for me?
Yes. How did you address the enterprise's priority for the shared services departments? So there was like an increased need for technology, but there's often not an open checkbook to be able to for them to add additional staff to support them.
Also a great question. So I would highlight one strategy, one goal. So it is in that process, it was really important that everyone has the same strategic focus. And then you break it down into department specific priorities. So if you think about technology specifically, so we knew we need to become and want to become the leader in digital money transfer. So what does that mean for the technology team? When that goal is set, you define as a technology team what your strategic priorities are. And yes, investments are going to be allocated across everyone's priorities, which is a bit of a daunting task, no question about it. And it's not an open checkbook either, because you need to prove that you have a high return on investment that you are getting for your strategic priorities. But usually technology is pretty good in proving that. And so I think it's this proof, test and trial, showcase what you were changing, what is working, and that you need more money to double down on that solution. So it is a process. It's not today you get 10 million to change your tech stack. That's not how it worked. It was like an iterative process of test and learning in the agile environment and showcase to the organization that technology is actually having a high return on investment on all the initiatives. And so that's why they can hire more people and get more money to change out legacy systems and things like that.
Perfect. And with all these great questions, we've run out of time, unfortunately. Do you have just, a couple words to wrap up? And then
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. There are a slide with pitfalls, read through them. You can imagine now with my presentation what they are. Want to leave you with the takeaways. So really your understanding of your market and your industry and your customers is really critical for the success. Choosing the timing and the right approach, as you see, Fortune 500, it took iterations of iterations. If you are a small organization, you are agile, you are nimble, you are fast in decision making, you probably can be much faster on that journey of transformation. Change management, I think I doubled down on that multiple times. At the forefront needs to be employee engagement, and then continuous improvement mindset. It is really, you can train it. You can train your employees to look at problems and say, oh, this is an opportunity. I can change this for the better for the customer. And then walk the talk, top-down leadership, bottom-up feedback. It's really about connecting all of them together to yield the best results. And if there are questions, here are your contacts. So for the presentation, Serena, for any type of question for Canopy Advisory Group, Griffin, and myself, if you feel like you would like to continue the conversation because you have a specific area where you want to, for your company, double down, then I'm happy to have this conversation with you. Please feel free,
Nicole. And we will send out the presentation, the deck, so you can dig in further. If you have additional questions, please reach out to me or Serena. We'd be happy to get you connected with Nicole. And that it's such a powerful case study. So thank you so much for your time this morning, Nicole, for sharing your expertise. We're really grateful. Hope everybody has a great day. We'd love to continue the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thanks, Nicole. With that, I'll shut down this Zoom so it ends the recording. Let's see, I think I can actually do it up here.